Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ty, a mom of two and entrepreneur. 2 years ago, I launched Next Chapter Studio, my motherhood photography business. And now I am launching Next Chapter Collective, a sister brand of my original business that is all about building a community for moms in any chapter of their motherhood journey. On this podcast, I will be interviewing other moms every single Tuesday, talking about anything and everything. We are diving into all of it. So join us every Tuesday for Next Chapter, the podcast, and let's get into it. Okay, Kelsey, thank you. Hi, thanks for coming on. So I know I said this before we started, but I feel like we could talk about 700 things.
Easy.
When we were messaging about this, I think you named like 6 topics off the top of your head. So I wanted to kind of narrow it down today to talk about mental health and motherhood and the invisible load, because I feel like
it's large.
It's large. But first, before we dive into that, I just want you to like say a little bit about yourself and your boys.
So I'm Kelsey. I'm 31. I'm married to Dave. I have 3 boys. There's Lucas, Lincoln, and Logan. They're 5, almost 6. Lincoln just turned 4 in December, and Logan turned 2 in February. We also have 2 dogs. A puppy.
Did you hear it? Literally. Yes, and a puppy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I forgot about your puppy.
She's cute.
How are the boys with her? Does it depend on the day?
She is like an open mouther. Like her mouth is always open.
Yeah.
So that they don't love that. And she also shows the love by like leaning into people, which is hard when you're little people.
Uh-huh.
And she was supposed to be little, and she's not little.
She's not.
So she gets knocked over a little bit. Well, they get knocked over a little bit, and they get very...
They're crushed by her.
And I'm also a social worker.
Yes.
I worked full-time and then part-time after I had Luke until COVID happened, lost daycare, and got pregnant with our 3rd, so now I'm just home.
So I know you have some like education background, and I know you were saying that you were getting, I don't know if you were getting trained, but what have you most recently been?
I did a training with Postpartum International on basically like perinatal mental health. Mm-hmm. So women in that period of time after you had a baby.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's a crazy time.
And it was interesting to do after you have kids.
Yeah,
especially like I think Logan was only like a month old when I had pictures of me doing the training. He was like in the bed.
Yeah.
Because my mother-in-law was there, so it was like actually a easier time for me to like be with just me and a computer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, this is all very recent.
Yeah. What did you feel like was the hardest transition? Was it 0 to 1, 1 to 2, or 2 to 3?
So I always answer this question in 2 parts.
Okay.
I feel like as a family, going to 3 is a little chaotic because you're outnumbered.
Yes.
As a mother, I feel like the 3rd was like the easiest.
That's so interesting that you answered it that way. I actually love that. Because
it's 2 very different. I say all the time the 3rd baby is just magic, and I feel like because it took me to my 3rd to really settle into like trusting my gut, like I know what I care about. Like one of the things is like there's just so much information that we have like vast access to, and I find it very overwhelming because I am someone who likes to read that stuff.
Yeah.
Which sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not, because sometimes I'll go through times of following lots of people, and then I'll be like unfollow because then you tend to, I don't know, I overanalyze everything.
That's literally one of the things I was going to talk about. Okay, so as a family, you feel like maybe 3 was the hardest transition, but as a mom, you feel like 3 was the easiest.
Yeah, it was great. Like I just feel like that everything's temporary.
Yeah.
Like the sleep, I didn't stress.
Yeah.
Like I knew it would end. And none of my kids were great sleepers for probably close to a year. Like up multiple times a night. But with Logan, I just accepted it. I feel like within accepting it, it wasn't nearly as like horrible.
Yeah.
And we just kind of made it work until, now he's our best sleeper. So
really?
Yeah. I feel like 1 to 3 is really good for sleep, and then then they get older and they're like, oh, I can get out of it.
Yeah. Okay, so today I want to talk about the mental health and invisible load. I want to start this with chatting about the mental load that moms face. And then I also want to spend like most of the episode, I found an article that I felt like was really interesting about mental health. And I kind of want to just share our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So first, when it comes to I do this so much, I hate this. When it comes to the mental or like the invisible load, I found something online. It was from the DoSomethingProject.com, and it was an expert from the book Fed Up, Emotional Labor, Women, and the Way Forward by Gemma Hartley. I just want to make sure I'm crediting. So it talked about the mom's mental load, and it said 72 to 89% of moms say they are the primary person responsible for each of the following tasks within their family. So this is just some of them. Making children's doctor's appointments, filling out school and activity forms, organizing playdates, arranging childcare, managing the family calendar, bringing children to appointments, preparing meals, buying cards and gifts for others, packing children's items for outings and vacation, grocery shopping, laundry, assigning household chores, planning children's birthday parties, shopping for children, and helping with schoolwork.
Yeah.
So, and that is just, I honestly, when I was reading this, I thought of 10 other things off the top of my head.
I feel like there's even 100 more that are just because I feel like it's even hard to explain to someone who's not the primary go-to parent, the stuff that is constantly running through your head.
The little things.
It's the little things.
Yeah.
That if you didn't do it, it could ruin someone's day. But but you don't think twice about doing it.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like second nature.
Right.
You just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think my husband helped. He does the grocery shopping because he works from home now.
Yeah.
And he takes a boy, so it's helpful. And he's really good at that. But I was there's just so many things that I don't think I'm even aware of half the time that we have it works if we're doing it. If we didn't do it, someone's gonna be in tears.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that was my question. Do you agree? Do you agree with this statistic, and do you think that the mental invisible load of a mother is obviously it's a real thing, but do you feel like it usually falls on the mom?
Yeah.
Because Tyler does a lot too, but I definitely feel like it's almost just my nature to want to do
absolutely most
of this.
And I'm kind of a control freak too, so
I am too.
I like to be the one doing it.
Yes.
Because if I'm not, I usually have opinions about it. Mm-hmm. But there's so many things, even just the changing out of clothes sizes, keeping the closet organized. Yep. If you see someone needs toothpaste, or pull-ups or diapers, their water bottles, making sure things are labeled, that the snacks are in there. And and then you have kids, because Luke started kindergarten this year, and then there's preschool, so there's managing different schools, events, activities, the dress-up days. It's always, genuinely, I have at least 5 lists happening. I'm a list person all the time. I have 2 calendars trying to make sure that everyone has access to seeing what's happening.
My calendar is so chaotic, but it's color coded, and I literally highlight. So Lane will be one color, Wes will be another color, Ty, and then me. And it's insane. I just run out of room.
Yep. And then I try to do family events, kids sports, doctor's appointments. It also helps me to have a visual like that.
Me too.
And then Luke has now that he's older, he has a little pet calendar, and he likes to write things down so that he can keep track.
I love that.
I feel like that's a firstborn.
I feel like that's how Lane will be too.
Yeah.
He's like that.
What are we doing? He loves to cross it off.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a ton of little things, just even day to day, that make things go easier.
Yeah.
And if we don't do them, it's harder.
Yeah, a lot harder. Okay, the main part of the episode I want to talk about is this article that I found. It's from babyway.co by Natasha Abrick, and the title of it was What No One Told You, 5 Mental Health Challenges That Make Motherhood So Hard. Okay, so the first, the intro of the article. She said, motherhood is hard. I don't think I have to tell you that. The sleepless nights, practically being on call 24/7. It's tough to raise a little person, and I think the mental load moms have to deal with is far greater than the physical exhaustion. So, question before we get into it. Do you think that the mental load moms deal with is greater, at least for you, than the physical exhaustion?
Yeah. And I think that which I feel like moms now face so many, have to deal with so many different things that are new. Posting things or announcements, or making, if you want to have privacy, making sure that no one does that. And then again, manage. I just feel like there's so much access, and that people like to have access, but sometimes that's draining within itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Feeling like you have to constantly be
keeping up.
Yeah.
Keeping people happy.
Yeah.
And then I feel like now I just tell them you don't have to. I don't know. If someone told me they don't want visitors for 3 months, I'd be good for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's, you do you.
I remember when we first had Wes, it was during the pandemic. It was the height of the pandemic, and we didn't have any visitors for it was a long time, and it was amazing. I literally said to Ty the other day, we were talking just about that whole time period, having him during that, and I said it was amazing.
Well, because it also didn't put it on you. Like, you didn't feel like you were disappointing someone or, like, being selfish, which is just silly. Because, in my opinion, if you just birthed a human, like, you're not being selfish.
Right. But not having visitors at the hospital, not having people over at the house. Yeah. It was, honestly, I felt like we got to focus on being a family. We got to transition into a family of 4 without, like, a million people in and out or opinions.
Yeah.
And like you said, it didn't put it on me.
Right.
I didn't have to say no to anyone because it was just a given that we weren't having people because of the time we were going through. And it was so nice.
Yeah. And again, because, like, you didn't feel bad.
No.
Like, no one had...
I was like, no, sorry.
The rules say.
Can't.
Yeah.
The world is shut down.
Like, the hospital, I think it was to, like, 1 visitor for labor.
Yeah, we couldn't have any.
We couldn't have any, and then I think it was 1, and then... Now, I think just, like, a couple weeks ago, they changed it to 2.
Okay.
Which, because I didn't even think, like, before COVID, people had, like, lots of people coming to the hospital. And I feel like that's just what people do because that's how it always, and, like, that's what's on the shows and in the movies. It's and like then, again, like, you get a taste of not having it, and you're like, oh, yeah.
I'll never go back.
This is nice.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious if they'll keep that because I feel like, again, I think it's, like, what most women would agree with, but, like, no one wants to be the person to be a party pooper. Like, I don't know.
But it's such a huge, like, you're going through so much mentally and physically that it's just nice to not have to worry about a revolving door. Not that we don't want the support and we don't want people to see the baby, but it's like, it's nice not to have to think about it.
There's people coming in all the time, like, doing stuff, and that's tricky. Pushing on your belly.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That was awful. Okay. Also in the intro, she said, which I love this quote, "Our body is amazing. It gets used to less sleep. It gets used to the weight, but your mind never gets a rest." So for me, my brain is always thinking. I never turn it off. I lay down to go to bed, and that's when it thinks the most.
You take forever to fall asleep.
100%. I toss and turn. So for me, that has been one of the hardest parts of motherhood because on top of, like, all of my personal things going on in my thoughts, I'm thinking a million things about my kids. So do you feel like the mental aspect of motherhood, like, has affected you in that way?
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
And it's hard, too, because I feel like we always want to say, like, anxiety, depression, but then I'm like, but also, like, I feel like it's a natural reaction to, like, what we got going on.
100%.
Right. So I don't know. It's just a lot. Like, even just things like, because not even just kids, but, like, your household. Like, I'm like, oh, I got to get the doggy daycare. Like, the vet appointment. Like, our pediatrician is retiring. So I had to, like, call and set up. It's just literally, like, so many little things. Yeah. Just even this morning, I'm like, oh, I got to go grocery shopping because I wasn't here this weekend. Like, it's just, like, a lot of, it's always something. And I feel like I stay up late, way later. I think I just read that women require, like, a decent amount more of men than sleep than men, and, like, really we should be getting, like, for good hormonal balance, like, 8 to 10 hours of sleep.
That's a joke.
And I always say, like, I don't like to parent after 8. Like, my kids are, like, asleep usually 7:30, 7:45, but I will sit in silence until, like, 11:30.
I am the same way. It's your only time.
And I zone and I watch trash TV, and it's, like, the best, but it's also, I know it's not the best for me, like, physically, but it's also, it is time to, like, prep for the next day and, like, make those lists so that you can make sure that you have everything.
It's like mentally you need it, but then physically the next morning you're like, oh my God, why did I stay up that late?
Every day.
Yeah, literally every day.
One day I'll go to bed like a responsible adult.
Before midnight?
Yeah, maybe. Because then I choose to, and then I do, like, I have a horrible, I, like, have room, like, you just think about all the things. Yeah. And I tend to write notes on my phone so that I remember. But I take, my husband, probably your husband, they can fall asleep in, like, 10 minutes. Yeah. Like, under, get 2. Like, and then I try so hard. It's, like, an hour.
I'm the same person. My notes app is, like, full of just random thoughts that I have at, like, midnight.
Yeah, because if you don't write them down, you'll forget them. And I feel like people always tend to, like, look really organized, but really, if there's a task, I do it right away because I'm so afraid that if I don't do it right then, like, it will just, like,
you'll forget.
Dissipate. Yeah, it will go.
Yeah. Yeah, we're the same human.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 5 mental challenges that she thinks make motherhood hard on an emotional level. The first is, she said it makes you question how you were raised. So she said, like, I feel like a lot of moms, either before or after they have kids, are like, I would never do that to my child. I went through this, I would never do that to my child. And she said when you become a parent, you will relive your childhood, especially the bad moments. So as you've raised your boys, have you ever found yourself, whether good or bad, replaying your childhood and the way you were raised? And are there certain aspects of your upbringing that you feel like you've held on to, good or bad, while raising your kids?
100%. I feel like so much of that is, think some things are conscious and there's so many things that are unconscious. And honestly, I think having children brings up so many things that were locked back there for a very long time. And that can be a very like triggering experience. And I say I think we were raised to look at like at controlling children. And I feel like with becoming a mom and like my education again, like, and all, I find parenting like the most thing that I'm learning is like how to control myself.
I want completely.
And it's, I don't think, just not like in a bad way, but our generation were like very mindful upbringing and was like, just be happy and go on, you know, and you're like, no, like it's okay. But I also think that like we are like with our children learning how to like regulate those big feelings.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think some people react, some people just like dissociate, like, and just, oh, all is fine. Like, and I think that's the harder part is just, and again, like there's things that I don't think, I find myself like reacting in certain ways. I'm like, oh, I'm curious if I did this when I was such a, because there's so much that we don't remember.
So much.
And the brain actually like purposely doesn't want you to remember. Yeah. Certain, especially the like negative things.
Right. Yeah.
So like, even though like, because I find like if your body's feeling a certain way, I'm like, oh, I wish I could figure out like, why is this so annoying? Yeah. Like, because there's certain things that like logically I'm like, who cares? Like they're not hurting anyone. They're not, but it is so like my insides are boiling. But it makes no sense because they're not like they're doing nothing wrong. Right. Our golden rules are to stay safe and kind. And like I try to like if you're being safe and if you're being kind, like whatever you're doing should be fine. Like, you know.
I like that.
Safe, my children probably get so sick of me saying that. Safe and kind.
They're gonna start saying that to everyone.
Oh, my kid, you'll hear it.
I love that though. That's a really good way to look at it because I know I'm guilty of. I feel like I stress about things that I don't need to stress about.
100%.
And I think I'm trying to work on that, but I find myself like catching myself and being like, okay,
which is a
do I need to stress about that?
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's like the whole other stuff of like trying to have your body not stress, even though you're being mindful. And I feel like that's a little circle in here. You're like, why am I so bothered?
I know. Yeah.
I think there's like your logical brain and then there's like your body.
Yeah.
But your body tends to remember a lot that your brain, like that your conscious mind doesn't. So it's always interesting. And I think that's cool because I think for a long time, like people were taught to like ignore all that, right? Yeah. Not even be aware of it. So I think being aware is cool. But then again, you're like, well, why? Yeah. And like circling back, I tend to like, I am 100%. I'm like, oh, sorry. Like mommy cared about that. And, like it did not matter. Yeah. And they're like, it's okay.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I like that. Okay. Number 2 is it brings back unhappy child memories. So the writer of this article, she used an example. She said she grew up being a people pleaser. She never wanted to disappoint anyone, and she struggled with standing up for herself as she grew up and as an adult. So she said when she sees her daughter being bold. Similar, being a little more reserved, not having confidence, not standing up for herself, she worries. Will she grow up to be a strong girl, or how can I raise her self-esteem? And she said, I worry about the times that I won't be there to protect her, and I worry if she will tell me about all of her troubles and hardships. So do you find yourself worrying about protecting your boys enough? And do you feel like you've built a strong enough relationship with each of them to where they will come to you with their troubles and hardships?
So my oldest is like so honest, like to a fault. Like even sometimes where like he could like not tell me, or like I probably would fib a little. Like he is so honest. Like I can count on him 110% to tell me everything, which was also hard in some facts because like sometimes he'd be telling me all this and like no one else knows. And then as a mom, you like create these situations like with like different things. And I'm like, okay, but no, Luke 100%. He's always honest and he's bold. And like, so I am like working out of it like a chronic people pleaser. I just always did what I was told.
I'm the same way.
I was an easy kid. Like I did everything I was supposed to. Like even into young adulthood, I just feel like there was like a list in my head that like, I don't know if it was put there or what I put there. Like, and I just boom, 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 boom. And I just did it. Yeah. And I say at the end of the day, I don't know if that made me like, I don't think made me any like happier than someone like who didn't. Right. And I was like, I hope my kids feel that they can like choose to do what they want. And Luke, all of them are very comfortable telling anyone, not just me, that they like disagree with what they're saying or that they don't want to do that. Like, and the other day was like, well, it's my body, mommy, so I can. And I'm like, well, okay.
It's good that they feel confident and that they
because
will
I'm
stick
not.
up for themselves.
And like I'm very slowly learning to put boundaries out there.
Yeah.
But it feels uncomfortable at first, especially if you are like a people pleaser and you don't want to make anyone upset. But I try to tell myself, like, they don't have to be happy about your boundary. They just have to respect it. And I read a quote once that's like, the people that are most upset with you placing boundaries are those who benefit from you not having them, which is also telling within itself.
Yeah.
So, and I think just for like a long time, there were no boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, and so, I mean, it probably sounds a little rude sometimes, but like, that's okay. Like, I don't know. I try to like, and again, there's always like the logical sequencing of it, and then like how you're like, you still like feel bad.
Yeah. So if you feel like you've always been a people pleaser, but your boys are pretty confident in expressing themselves, what do you feel like you've done to make them that way, since you feel like you haven't been that way?
I think I allow them to disagree. It's okay to disagree. Like, and I always try to like listen through their viewpoints of things, because again, like, there's certain things that I even find myself, and I said this when I worked with families, like, I feel like we're so quick to say no or stop, and then if you take a step back, you're like, well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you say no, you got to stick with it, which is, as a parent, we all know can be kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
To like hold that boundary. So unless you like really care, like, let's not try to say like no to begin with.
Yeah.
But no, I just feel like I do, and I'm not like, I wouldn't call myself a passive parent. Like, if there's a boundary, like, that's it, and I'm not very easily swayed. Yeah. But I do, like, they can always voice their opinions, and I tell them, like, they can be unhappy about it, but, and that's okay. You can tell me about it, but like, it is what it is. Yeah. So I think just having them feeling safe to be able to disagree.
Yeah. Even if they don't get their way with that opinion,
still don't get their way. They can tell me about it.
Express it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
I try, and sometimes it's exhausting, but
especially with 3, I'm sure it's a lot of personalities and opinions to balance.
It is, and they're all very different, but yeah, it's fun.
Okay, number 3 for mental challenges that make motherhood hard. You feel as if you have no identity. So in the article, it says between birthing your baby, maternity leave, seeing your friends less, a decrease in your hobbies, trying to manage your relationship with your partner while also being a mom. You sometimes give until there is nothing left of you. And the writer says, but what's wrong with your new identity as a mother? Why doesn't it seem like it's enough? And why do you feel stuck in an identity crisis?
I feel like that resonates so much. So we had 3 kids in 3.5 years.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's crazy to think
about. It's wild to think about.
Yeah.
And mind you, like I said, like I graduated high school, I went to college, I did spent a little bit of time in Africa because I graduated early because I did that to myself. And then I went to grad school, and then I got a job, so I spent all this money on a master's degree. And then, I find myself feeling guilty sometimes that I'm not utilizing it, because I even after I graduated, I went and got the next credential, which is a C, which is hard. It takes time to get. And so I feel like, and I've talked about that, I'm but I feel like what's wrong with just being a mom? And it's because it's not just and I find we put that word there, and it's
just gonna say that,
and it's not necessary, because it is a full-time job. And I'm it's okay, because I'm it's not. I feel that, because I also feel like this is the first time I've not been pregnant or had a newborn for 2 years, and I can feel myself. I'm finally getting to the chiropractor. I'm finally
doing things for you,
exercising a couple times a week. And I'm it's great if you do, but it's okay if you don't, for so many things. And I feel again, that's what I took comfort in with the 3rd, that I just always felt I should have been doing more or feeling different with my other 2. But I was it's enough. It's a lot.
Yeah. But not, like you said, it's not just being a mom.
No, because you're doing so many other things, and you're managing a house, and and little children are needy. And I do tell myself to find. I'm if I wasn't doing it, I would be paying someone else to do it. Right. Which is a job. Right. So it's enough. And I'm but I always in the back of my head, I'm oh, and we've talked just even if and when I go back to work, all that load is still mine.
Exactly.
So I think it'd be a new juggling, but they do get less needy as they get older.
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of went through that identity crisis with every child? Do you feel like it got easier?
I think I just lived it. I don't think it ever like went away.
Yeah.
And I don't think it went, because I don't think I don't have hobbies. And I've talked about that to other people. I was like, I don't think I have a hobby. There's things I like to do. Like I like to snowboard, but like a lot of time I wasn't able to do that for a while because you can't do that pregnant. And I really wasn't able to like leave little babies for a long time. And, yeah, 100%. But like mom can be an identity, but it's again, it's like the logical things you would tell people, but then there's like your feelings, and there's kind of like a discord there. But yeah, it's tricky. I will say, like, because they always say it takes like 2 years for your body to like heal from having a baby. But I can even feel just like as they get older, I'm like, oh, you can breathe, like get your head a little bit above water. Yeah. Which is nice.
Focus on you a little bit.
Yeah, like just to make time. Right. Which I didn't, like I was not able, because again, they're like, take care of yourself. And I'm like, but there's like, sometimes there's just not time.
Like I have 750 things on my to-do list. I don't have time to do that.
No, and like, I mean, sleep is always like critical. Yeah. Like
just a few hours.
Like that. And sometimes like just taking care of yourself is not doing it too. And like, that's okay. Yeah. But
all right, number 4, you feel as if everybody is moving forward but you, which you started talking about something similar to this earlier. So she said in the article, social media, where you see all these perfect lives, is the big comparison trap nowadays, but also people around us can make us question ourselves. It's as if life has become a race, but the truth is that we are comparing our life to a completely different life of a completely different person. Right. So, question, do you find yourself comparing your mothering to others on social media? And do you ever feel like others are questioning you in any way?
I feel like for the most part, like I said, I tend to try not to follow I find myself more like questioning myself with like the parenting things. I will say, like, I feel like I have a ton of mom friends, which I feel like is not, I know that that's not everybody, but I feel like I'm able to find comfort like when you talk to them outside of social media, then I'm like, okay, we're all like running the same race. Yeah. Like we're all struggling the same, like there's still like the same like oh shit moments, like in the same like questioning, the same, I don't know. I don't find myself comparing so much on social media to other moms. I'm definitely not like a very aesthetically, like if I post pictures of my kids, like my kitchen's a mess. Yeah. And like that's okay. Yeah. Because that's our house.
It's reality.
It's busy. Like anyway, it's just a busy house. Like we tend to have extra kids at our house, and I love that. Like that's honestly, I always like dreamed of that, like being able to do that. Even just like bringing my kid to school and picking them up is something that I always like really wanted to do, and I feel grateful that I can. Yeah. But no, and I hope no one's judging me on social media. I don't follow a lot of people I don't know, and I do not let anyone follow me who like I would not say hi.
Yeah. Like if you saw them out.
If I saw them out.
Yeah. No, I like that.
And I tend to clean it up because I do post my kids. Like, so I was like, I wanted, because grandparents and people that don't live around here like to see them. Yeah. So, and I like to look back. I always feel like I am the person with the camera, and I do not feel bad about it because...
Yeah. No, you're amazing at like capturing I feel like you have documented like so much, and I love that.
And I love to look back at them. I do like chapbooks of the boys like 4 times a year, so I print them out. Yeah. Like, so we have them, because I feel like printing it's actually impossible to find a photo album these days, like to put 4x6s in like we did, so I just print them out. But I feel like I used to feel guilty for taking pictures because I felt like I didn't look like I was being present with my phone out. But I was like,
no, you're like, I want to look back on this.
I want to, because I genuinely all the time look back at their like little faces, because like it goes fast, and like you don't know, in the hustle of the day, you're not looking at them being like, oh, they're so little.
I know. You really don't realize until you look back.
No. Or even like, because I wasn't around this week, and I called Luke, and I was like, he always seems so big to me, and like his voice sounded so little on the phone, like still like a little kid, and I was like, oh, he's still little.
He's still my baby.
I know.
Okay, the last one, number 5, you have FOMO. So you hop on social media, see everyone on vacations, trips, at social gatherings. It can seem like the simple things, for example, staying at home, are not enough. And she said, I also think that today we live in a world that's just ridiculously fast-paced. We want to do so many things in such little time, and we have somehow lost the connection to the present moment. We always seem to be in a hurry. And she brought up an example, and I am so guilty of this, and I feel like I've started to like notice it and try to stop. But she used the example of like going to the grocery store, for example, with your kids, and they're, you know, taking forever to walk down the aisle, or they're grabbing things. You're like, come on, let's go. Like, come on, I want to get this done. And you have nowhere to go. You have nothing to do for the rest of the day. You have nowhere to go, but you're just in this, like, rushed mentality where you're like, I need to get this done. And then you just go home and you have nothing to do. It's like,
you're like, why did I do that?
Like, and I feel like that I've been guilty of that. Like, I feel like I need to stay in the moment more and actually sit back, and if I'm getting stressed out that they're taking forever to do something, I feel like I need to say to myself, do I actually need to feel rushed right now? Yeah.
I also hate feeling rushed in general.
Yeah.
Like, so I do feel like FOMO is 100%. You see people doing fun things all the time. You're like, I want to do fun things all the time. But to be honest, I don't think for the longest time, like, taking 3 little kids somewhere is not easy. No. Cheap or fun.
None of the above.
It's okay to just stay home, but like, it does not sound fun to me. Like, and I was like, I've traveled with 1 by myself. I've traveled by 2 by myself. I was like, I don't think I'm game for 3 by myself.
That's a lot.
Though I will say they get older. Like, I traveled with Luke and Logan last September, and like, Luke growing up has taught me, like, I don't know, they hit 5 or 6 and you're like, oh, like, they stop trying to kill themselves all the time. Like, they can, like, handle themselves in a social situation. Yeah. They can reason, which, again, is all brain development. They're just, like, they don't have the ability to reason. But, like, as you approach the age 7, like, they can. And I'm, like, so in my, like, with that, again, I feel like I keep saying, like, I felt like my head coming above water. And, like, we can do it all when it's a little easier. But I still have FOMO. Like, people are doing fun things, flying places. Like, I don't know, doing certain activities and stuff. Which, like, we stay busy. But I think it's hard not to, because it, like, in your head you're like, oh, that would be fun. But like, which every kids are. Some kids travel easier than others. Like, you have boys, like, they're just busy. Yeah. Like, they don't sit well. No. They're not quiet. Nope. I don't mind. Other people do. And I feel like, again, like, that's the type of stuff I've got myself in situations. You're like, you don't care. And that's what, like, if other people care, like, no. Sorry. That's on them. Yeah, like, go somewhere else. I'm like, because they're kids. But I feel like for so long, like, kids were supposed to be seen and not heard. And I do feel like our age parent, like, that's not how it is anymore, which I'm, like, thankful for. Because they're only, like... Let them be kids. And they're so, like, they're only little for so long. Yeah. Like, I know that that's, like, cheesy, but, like, it's true. Like, I don't know. I think they call the years, like, 0 to 7 the wonder years. Because after age 7, like... that brain development really changes, and like their like sense of like wonder and awe and like littleness really just like changes. Yeah. And I'm like, I just want to enjoy them when they're like so cool. And I always say, I'm like, because sometimes like I know my kids creep into bed, and I'm like, but they're never gonna love you as much as they love you right now. Like, and I feel like, and I don't want them to. I don't want them to be like 20, like being at like us being the center of attention, but. So we always try and say that when they seem to be like super needy, in like in a good way. I think just like we've had that conversation before. I think I put up like a post one day on my story about how Lane asked me to lay with him, and I never say no now because I feel like I know there's going to be a day, probably soon, where it's like, no, I'm good. And it's the last time. Yeah. And you don't even know when that's going to be. Right. There's a whole book. Don't read it. You'll cry. It's all about like, because we always talk about like the first time they walk, like the first, but like no one ever talks about the last. It's so true. Because you don't know. Like literally someone's like, one day is the last time you'll pick them up. I'm like, oh my God. And like, cause like they're getting heavy. Lane is almost the size of me. I'm not a big person. He is almost the size of me. You're like, ugh. Yeah. I remember Lincoln being like, I don't want to turn 4, Mommy, because I don't want to get too big that you can't hold me. And I was like, oh my God, like I'll just break a hip. Like, come on up. Like, it's fine. But like the fact that he was even thinking of that, I feel like because we've started to say like, oh buddy, like you're heavy, let's walk. Like to any of them, you know, like, and I'm like, well, fine. I guess we'll just hike you up here for a little bit. I'll break my back. Yeah. I feel like we digressed and I don't remember. No, it's okay. It was FOMO. Yeah, definitely FOMO. It's real. It's real in comparison. Yeah. Yeah, there's just a lot of access out there, which I feel like sometimes it's great. Because I do, like, I love watching my friends and their kids. Like, I think it's cute. And, like, but I do feel like keep being aware of, like, who you're following can help. Yeah. Because I do find, like, especially, like, a lot of the parenting ones were making me, like, doing more harm than good. Yeah. Because again, I feel like we know what they're saying. Like, so like when they call out like a not so perfect moment, you're like, yeah, I know. And then you think about that a little too much. Yeah. Which we all have tons of not perfect moments, so it's okay. Lots of them.
Okay, so to recap everything, what do you think we can do as moms to ease the invisible load of mothers, and what do you think we can do to help our mental health?
Invisible load, I feel like it just comes down to communication with your partner, and I feel like I often need to remember that men and women have very different communication styles in general.
Yes. Yep.
So it's specifics. Like if I write Dave a list, he will do that. Like he will make sure to get it done. But I feel like suggesting or just talking like doesn't do it. I think just like, which again, I always say like asking, I'm like asking you to do something or anyone is a job within itself, right? Because you're still doing the mental load.
Right.
You're still asking.
Yep.
I feel like I guess I haven't perfected that one myself because in order to fully get something off your like mental load table, it would require you not even having to think about it. And that's
true.
I'm not there yet. Like I don't really know. There's certain things, and again, because there's the things that we're not even aware of. So I don't know. I think being specific and asking for it.
Yeah.
And then just making it clear that you don't want to like have to keep asking for it. So I
feel the same way because I feel like Tyler, if he knows and I make it clear, he will do it.
Easy.
But it's the fact. Sometimes I'm just like, but I just want you to do it.
Right.
I don't want to have to think about it.
Because asking is a job.
Exactly.
And reminding is a job.
Yep. And
then
making the list is a job.
And then so it just becomes at that point for me, like, well, then I'll just do it myself.
Right.
Because I'm already like putting my energy there anyway.
Yeah.
So I think just like communicating what it is and then just kind of being like, that's your role. Which I feel like he's done with grocery shopping. Like he does that every week. So I feel like once it becomes a habit, like it's good. But again, it's just hard to get it off the mind.
Yeah.
Mental health. I think just talking to people has always helped me.
Yeah.
To realize you're not alone. And again, I feel like a lot of times things are pegged as like anxiety and stuff. But I also just think, like, if you don't want to leave your baby, you don't want to leave your baby. Like, that's okay. Like, I don't know.
That's such a good point. I feel like there are a lot of things.
There's so much pressure to like
easy
be
to
one
say
thing
it's
or the
anxiety or it's depression but there's also a lot of things that are just normal for us to go through.
So like it's only anxiety if like I say it doesn't make sense. Like if you're feeling super anxious but like nothing's
triggering.
Happening. Yeah. I mean, talk to your providers. Meds are great. Like I was like, but I also just feel like having a good group of people to talk to is always just super helpful because then like you know you're not alone. You're like, like it comes to like it changes, it gets better. Like I also feel like it's funny, even just people are always like, oh, wait until 3. Oh, wait until 4. Like certain, it's the most annoying. I heard someone say that to someone at the airport this morning. They're like, the kid was like 1. He's like, oh, wait until they're 3. And I literally yelled. I was like, 3 is pretty great because I'm just like, why would you say that to him?
I hear that all the time.
God, it drives me nuts. Even the terrible 2s. My dad was like, oh, terrible 2s, like joking, and I was like, they're terrific 2s. Honestly, I think 2s are pretty great. Like I don't know. I just feel like the dooming of people, even when they're having a baby, like waiting for all the like times you can't sleep. I don't know. There's so much more good than bad.
It's so common though.
It's
I feel
so
like you
common.
hear it all the time.
And I've tried to be like so conscious as like a mom to try and like not to say that to people. Like because I was like, I don't even know. I even try not to ask how they're sleeping because I know as a new mom when people kept asking me how they were sleeping, I was like a baby. Like I don't know. No.
I'm up a lot. What do you want me to say?
Or like are they a good baby? Like that question always. And I'm like, I now say I'm like all babies are good. Like I don't know. Like,
I love that.
Are they convenient? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, are they up 10 times? Yes. But like
he's
a good baby.
Yeah.
Even at the grocery store, this lady who was being sweet, like, not, are you good kids or bad kids? To my boys. And I was like, again, I'm like, I think all kids are good. And she's like, oh. And now she's like, the boys were like, good. And she gave him a piece of candy. Like it was harmless. But again, I'm just like, all kids are good.
Yeah.
Like,
because what do you define as good and bad? Because
like they're good people. Yeah. I don't know.
That's funny.
Talking. And for mental, I just think talking and just being aware. Like if you're having a lot of really bad dates, like that's not normal. But like a lot of things are normal. And I feel like that is tricky. Like looking at the difference between like baby blues and like depression, there's like a lot of crossover there. Yeah. And I do feel like our like the healthcare for mothers, I don't think is like fantastic. No. I think 6 weeks is a long time to go without seeing a provider.
I also think it's crazy the amount of appointments that you go to when you are pregnant versus the one appointment you go to postpartum. Yeah. And then that's it. Yeah. That's it.
Like for one of them, I had to go for 2 weeks. I don't remember why, but I was like, I feel like that's more appropriate. Like, I don't know, like just made a whole new human or like going home with a new human. And I think that like once they are aware of an issue, they're helpful, but I just feel like there needs to be more like checkup on the mom. Like, I don't know, like I feel like the quick appointment at 6 weeks like really does women a disservice.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they could use a little more.
Yeah, way more, usually.
Right.
Okay, last question I've asked all of my guests on here. What does your next chapter look like for you? So whether it's just you as a mom, you as a woman, what does your next chapter look like?
Keep getting my head above water. Like, I just keep saying, I always say that, like, after all my boys are in school, I'm going to take a year of Kelsey before I go, like, back to work.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to get some good therapy. Like, I want to go to go work out. Like, I want to just do all the stuff that I just haven't had time to do.
Yeah. I love that. A year of Kelsey.
Year of Kelsey. My husband's very aware. He's like, after the year of Kelsey, it's like, it's like, we know what's happening. Because you are selfless for so long, which, like, again, I feel like sometimes they make you feel, I have felt guilty for being selfless because people make you feel like you shouldn't just be a mom, like, you can't, like, lose sight of yourself, but, like, sometimes you do, and, like, it's okay. Yeah. Like, and I feel like I was the first cousin to be a mom, so I didn't have anyone to really, like, talk to about it the way that I love to talk it to other people, which I always try to, like, make it clear, like, hey, I'm here to talk, and there's really nothing off the table, like, and I wish I had that, because, like, it's okay. Yeah. So, the mic.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so I think just, like, enjoying the time of not having a newborn, even though I'm, like, having a really hard time not having a baby, personally. So I feel like that alone is, I'm still, like, coming to terms with that, because I would have another baby. Yeah. So... yeah, that and then a year of Kelsey.
I love that. A year of Kelsey. That's what's next. I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel like this was very needed, and I feel like a lot of people are going to relate to this because mental health, I feel like it's not talked about enough, first of all, with motherhood at any stage.
Because I feel like, again, like, we were taught to, like, just be happy.
Yeah.
Because we talked about, like, no one knows how to cope. And I feel like we're like, but it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. And, like, it's okay to talk about it. Yeah. Where I feel like for Wyatt, like, we were all just like, smile and be happy. Yeah. And if you're mad, like, don't show it. Don't show it. Don't tell me. Like, no. And that's just because everyone else also, we really can't deal with their feelings, so they definitely don't want to deal with anybody else's. But but it's okay to not be okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. Yeah, always. Well, thank you so much for being on. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I asked you like 700 questions. I love it. It was amazing. All right, and that is today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to go follow Next Chapter Collective on Instagram at Next Chapter Collective, and head over to the website, thenextchaptercollective.com, and check back here for new episodes every Tuesday. Bye, guys.